The Sports Project.
Welcome in to the Sports Project Prime Time. I am your substitute host, your substitute teacher. You may recognize that this is not the sports professor Steve Project. He is on the mend right now, so he has called to the bullpen, and I am Ryan Walsh, who I host Sports Intel and co-host Shane Graham's Extra Points on Thursdays, and so I'm filling in, but we got a good schedule for you. This is, I always say when I cover Steve's show that he always wants me to be the substitute professor, but I'm the substitute teacher. I'm not qualified to be a professor. So I roll the TV in, we pick a movie, we keep the lights on, we keep things going, but we got a good show to do that because we got a lot of good guests, and we welcome back to the studio Big G in the producer's chair, a friendly face that I enjoy seeing. Well, he's not giving me the most friendly of faces right now.
Boy, oh boy, I'm gone for a month, and you just come right back in. Oh, he's such a friendly face. He's such a friendly face. Shut up.
I mean, not much has changed. I haven't changed much in the last month here, Big G.
No, you haven't. It's good to see. It's good to be back. Just kind of took a month off to kind of, reset and recalibrate and whatever, and that sound you hear is all the radios turning off now because I'm here. So
no, they're glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. The audience is glad you're back because it's nice to have you back in the fold. And you got to help me here, Big G. And I feel like these are two pretty good choices because, as you know, I celebrate the thing of the day on my show, so I always carry that over if I'm on Steve's show. But we got two pretty good options. We've got National Beverage Day. Mm-hmm. That's very generic and easy to answer. Everybody drinks beverages. And Crepe Suzette Day. So we could do favorite crepe if we wanted to kind of go more specific, or we could do just, hey, what's your favorite drink? So I would like your answers to both.
First of all, I don't know if I've ever eaten a crepe in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me. They're pretty good. They're pretty good.
Okay.
I like with Nutella or something inside. That would be my answer.
What is wrong with you?
That's good. You can't. This is not like the peanut butter on the burger thing.
No, but it's Nutella. I don't like Nutella.
You don't like? Oh, you don't like Nutella?
I don't like Nutella.
Interesting. Okay. So I wonder, because they have different combinations of things. Okay, so sneaky one. Have you ever had a cheese blintz?
No.
Okay, so that's a Jewish delicacy. You'll find them at the delicatessens in New York, but it's basically a crepe with sweetened cream cheese inside. So that would be actually my favorite crepe because
now that doesn't sound half bad.
Yeah, cheese blintz is one of my favorite things. Now, let me get your take on this though, because cheese blintz traditionally, if I could talk here, has an odd combination of things. It's the crepe, it's the sweetened cream cheese, and then it comes with jam, like a strawberry jam, and sour cream. So it's kind of an odd combination of things.
Not the biggest sour cream fan.
It is. It's traditional that they do that. I don't usually use the sour cream. It doesn't go with it for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't
in that particular case.
I
but
wouldn't have it. I'm sour enough as it is. So
those would be my probably favorite crepes if we went crepes. But so crepe is probably out then. You haven't had a crepe. It's too specific. Probably other people haven't had a crepe, but everybody has a favorite beverage because everybody drinks beverages, and we can find out, maybe it's an adult beverage, maybe it's a morning beverage. With you, I have a guess because I would say you drink one thing more frequently than other things when you come in here.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
But it might not be that thing. I just see that version of Big G, the producer version that's drinking typically an energy drink is what I see you drinking. That's the most popular drink of the producer chair, by the way. It's not just you that drinks them. That's the most popular drink there. But what is your favorite beverage?
Meyer sells in powdered form a peach mango green tea that is amazing, and that is my favorite beverage.
You're speaking my language because, as you know, I'm usually drinking tea when we're here in studio. I usually have 2 a day, and it's usually at least 4 bags per tea. Mm-hmm. So it's probably close to 10 tea bags a day between the two of them.
I'm not going there. Nope. Nope.
But I wouldn't call that my favorite drink, though. I wouldn't call that my favorite beverage. It's
Okay.
maybe my most frequent, but I think you'd have to go with something in the espresso category. I really like espresso, and so maybe like a breve latte. Are you familiar with that? I don't have them very often because they're you're mainlining too many things at once. You're getting a lot of espresso combined with half and half. That's the breve part.
Okay. I've had lattes before, but I don't think I've ever had that.
Probably not with half and half.
No.
They're usually made with 2% whole milk, whatever.
Yeah.
But so that's why I don't have it very often. But I do enjoy that. So there we go. We'll ask all of our guests their favorite beverage and see what's happening there. But Big G, you got to catch me up. We got a lot of good subjects that we're talking about. We'll be talking about Lions and Tigers and Pistons and all that. But what stuck out to you the most while you were out? Like, we had the draft while you were out. We had a bunch of things that happened.
We had the NFL draft. The Lions did very well. I think they got their offensive line, big, really good offensive line. I know everybody wanted the kid from Georgia, but you've got a guy who's missed one practice, and it was because of a surgery.
Exactly.
And then he was back the next day.
Yes. He missed it because of the scheduling part.
Right. And, 4-year starter, never missed a game. I mean, durable. And can play right tackle, which means Penei Sewell will more than likely move over to left tackle. So that takes care of the Taylor Decker problem. You've got a couple of good young guards in Mahogany and Tate Ratledge, and then Cade Mays is going to be the new center. So I think you're going to see massive improvements in the offensive line going forward.
I do too, and I know. Yeah, you probably weren't listening to the shows a ton while you were out, but I became very big on the Blake Miller path before the draft. It was basically myself and Eric Schlitt were kind of the only two people that I heard of that early, kind of getting over to his camp versus maybe a Caden Proctor, because that's another name we were hearing a lot, mainly on the national side of things.
He went early, though, didn't he?
He did, but he was rumored to be attached to the Lions a lot by the national media, not by the local media, and that's a distinction I made on the show often, because I think that was a swerve that the Lions were putting out there, saying, oh, yeah, that's who we want at tackle, because everybody knew they wanted a tackle.
Yeah.
But I think since they put Proctor out there, they met with him at the Senior Bowl. I think that was all a swerve. I think that was all psyops that Brad Holmes was doing. I think he was doing that because if you notice in this cycle, he wasn't meeting with a lot of people publicly. He wasn't doing a lot of pro day stuff. They were very secretive about their top 30 visits, and then all of a sudden they're seen sitting with Caden Proctor at the Senior Bowl. I think that was a plant from the beginning. And Freeling was interesting. I think he's kind of at the other side of the Miller thing. You only have a season to kind of figure out what he can do.
Right, yeah.
And not that he can't be good. Miller just seemed like more of a sure thing and a much better fit for the Lions. I kept saying it was like they put an AI description. It was like they typed in tackle for the Lions, and that's what they ended up getting was Blake Miller. It was like a write-up.
Absolutely. And I think he's more I think he's more pro ready right away.
I think that all of those guys, and it was like they had to reach to find an issue with him. It was like they'd say, oh, well, maybe he needs to get a little stronger, or, well, he can't play left tackle. We don't know that he can't play left tackle. He just was cemented on the right side. That doesn't mean he can't play left tackle. That just means he hasn't for now.
Sure.
So in a situation, if Sewell is out, which hopefully he's not, I could see Miller moving over to left tackle and then putting Borum at right tackle, not having Borum fill in. We'll see. Hopefully we won't have to see, actually, because hopefully that line stays intact because they need it this year. But what about the rest of the picks? Did you like the rest of the draft?
I did. I think he did very well. I think the edge from Michigan was a good pick. I think the linebacker from Michigan was a good pick. I think he knocked it out of the park. So, I mean, and none of them were super sexy picks, but they filled needs and they did well.
It seemed like he kind of went back to the drawing board to a degree where he didn't reach for any injury issue things. I know he likes to keep his board open, but he did go for what happened to be the three biggest needs. You could say, oh, well, that's just how the board fell. But I do think offensive tackle was very appropriate in the first round, both from what was in the draft and their need. Defensive end has been a need for a while. They had a good one there. And linebackers, there's a lot of choices there in the fourth round. They went with the guy they liked and sneakily picked up a guy in undrafted free agency that I think will be pretty interesting too, Eric Hunter.
Yeah.
He's a guy that we've kind of got on the watch list right now because I think he could do some things that could be quite interesting and maybe filling in for what they've envisioned with that. Houston, when James Houston was there, and then Derek Barnes, they want an edge rusher that can also play linebacker, and they're trying to find somebody that's a combination between those two things. Houston was too much of an edge rusher. He really couldn't drop back in coverage and then lost some mobility after the injury. And Barnes is more of a back linebacker. And I think he'll play more of that this year. But I'm with you. They also got a lot of depth pieces late too. Keith Abney was one of their better picks, and that was in the fifth round. So it'll be exciting stuff. We're just going to continue the Lions discussion because we've got Zach Moran coming on, and he's going to talk to us about his thoughts on the Lions, and Big G will pick his brain on that. So stick with us. You're listening to the Sports Project Primetime on Jethro FM. This is your guest host, Ryan Walsh, the substitute teacher, filling in for the sports professor. But we have a guest that crosses over to both shows. He appears on both of our shows. He's a great Lions guest. Zach Moran, haven't talked to him in a while. Need to get his thoughts on the draft. But first, Zach, we are taking a staple from my show over to this show, and we're celebrating National Beverage Day. So what's Zach Moran's favorite beverage?
Oh, are we going non-alcoholic or dealer's choice?
I think it's dealer's choice. If it's an adult beverage, that's fine too. I don't partake, but that's okay. You're an adult.
That's fair. I mean, I can't go wrong with a good cold Dr. Pepper. That stuff hits the spot on a nice hot day.
That's a good one. I think we're going to get a smattering of answers here because sometimes we had National Juice Day on the show on Monday, and it was like we got a lot of the same answers. I think we're going to get a wide variety of answers, so I'm intrigued by that. So Dr. Pepper is different than what Big G and I chose. So we got a nice smattering. We're learning more about Zach, and he didn't choose an adult beverage. Just noting for everybody, he went with Dr. Pepper. That's probably a smart move, but no, we're glad to have you on the show here, Zach. I wanted to talk to you about primarily the draft because I'm sure you've got some thoughts on it. We were talking about it in the first segment, but it was an interesting draft, and we kind of viewed it as him going back, Brad Holmes going back to the drawing board. But I wanted to see what your thoughts were on the draft as a whole and the strategy.
Yeah, it was a I want to say a boring draft, but boring in a good way, where there was no shocker picks. There was no surprises that really didn't catch off guard. He went to, that needs base. At some point you think that Holmes kind of, being that, I don't want to say the smartest man in the room, but kind of be like, all right, I'm going to take this guy and see how it pans out. And considering this is the highest they picked in a couple of years, it was to a point where you got to hit on this pick. So Blake Miller is exactly what the Lions want in their right tackle, moving Panay to left. I mean, the comps are right there. He's a young man's Taylor Decker. So why not replace Taylor Decker with a younger version of him? And you got to look at you got to love his collegiate starts. He's started since a freshman. He even though people say he's not athletic, I think he can translate it right on the field and shore up that right side that was vacated to a point where we were having questions on, okay, Larry Borm's going to be on the right side, and that really doesn't inspire confidence. But then you throw Blake in there, you're like, well, Borm's actually a pretty good OT3. We'll take that too.
Yeah, that's an upgrade too, and I think that was a big strategy with the line as a whole, because obviously we're focusing on the draft, but they do have a lot of good depth pieces on the line. I think they're going to reveal themselves to fans as we go on. But if the scheduled first five is obviously Sewell and Miller as the tackles, and then Ratledge and likely Mahogany, but that's probably got the asterisk, and then Mays. But you've got a lot of other interior guys that are in the mix there. You've got Barch, you've got Scruggs, you've got other folks in there.
Yep.
You've got Frazier kind of in the mix, bouncing around, and so it'll be interesting to see how camp goes. But the one thing that we now know is that each piece has kind of been upgraded here. You kept Sewell, you upgraded really to Miller, because I know he's a rookie, and I'm not saying anything against Decker, but he was losing mobility. He wasn't going to be available for all the games had he played this year. And then you're upgrading most of the other positions as far as especially the depth piece of it. So it's going to be interesting how camp goes, because I know we have those kind of penciled in on the line, and most of them are probably sure things, but they've got depth in case something goes wrong like last year.
Oh, absolutely. I think they've kind of learned that lesson, might as well have, more just in case. And I think they really attacked it heavily, even though they didn't go out. The only player that they signed to a multi-year deal was Cade Mays at the center position. Outside of that, everyone was on a 1-year deal. But you could see it in the draft as well. Derek Moore, coming in on that edge, he's almost a prototypical DJ Wanham that they signed this past off season. And then you got Waller, another Michigan guy. They got a few. They brought in a few veteran linebackers to come in, and probably the favorite pick for amongst everyone, amongst fans, draftniks, everyone was Keith Abney out of Arizona State. He's that dog mentality that fits right where in that cornerback room for the Lions, and everyone compares him to Amik Robertson. Yeah, Robertson left his past free agency, but they signed Roger McCreary to play that slot cornerback, and that's probably where Keith Abney is going to slot into. But probably one of the players I'm excited to see a little bit is Gilles Howard. I'm just like, a sixth round. You're like, oh, this. I think this guy can make some noise as a rotational piece.
I agree. I'm high on him as well, because he seems to be a lot of the things that you're highlighting are advantages for the Lions, because they go for a certain type that may not be as popular or prominent with other teams. So, that heavy edge, the guy that's more formidable against the run. Other teams might be looking for a more dynamic pass rusher. Moore is a little bit more of a combination than some of the previous iterations, but he's still built to be pretty heavy on the edge. DJ Wanham is built that way, and that's their type on the edge. Corner, they have the advantage of saying, hey, we don't need the guy to be 6'4". We don't. That's not really something we necessarily look for. If he is, great, but it's kind of like the receiver position. They ended up with somebody that had those traits in Isaac Taslav, but it was only because he met the other trait package, the character and the grit and all that. And Abney isn't the biggest guy, but I mean, he was a second-round projection, and by the estimations that I read and by my own estimation, I mean, he just dropped because he wasn't really a fit maybe with some other teams. There were some other undersized guys, but he was still a second-round value. And yeah, he's a little smaller, but the Lions don't mind that.
No, absolutely not. And I don't think they've ever, especially in that particular role, didn't mind the size. You can make up that size with your technical abilities and your keenness on the field. And he's someone that I could, even though they're probably not going to rush him on the field, but I would say he's probably going to be right there in the mix to, if not start, but be a nice rotational piece just to bring a little, you want to say, extra juice on the field. And considering, even though he's looked at as a slot, they might try him on the outside, but as we've learned, our nice little injury bug in the secondary, we can't have enough pieces, when between, like I said, McCreary and then Christian Isian also coming in. I love that signing. I think he's a chess piece that can bounce anywhere in the secondary. But yeah, I absolutely love the once you see in its full totality between free agency and the draft, you could see the vision that was going to be implied for this year to bring in veteran pieces, draft for need, but don't need necessarily to start this year, giving them a nice little development course through this year, and in hopes that they learn into next year and potentially be a impactful player.
Exactly. You can see where these people slot in as maybe a depth piece or a competition piece. You mentioned Gil Howard, and I wanted to highlight that because they've got Mekhi Wingo in the mix, and they're hoping that he can develop and stay healthy. But I feel like those guys might be competing for a spot there because they're interesting. They're an interesting mix where they can kind of bounce around the line. And I mean, Gil Howard is he's like a hybrid defensive lineman because it's like he's got the feet and the quickness of a linebacker because that's where he started, but he's got kind of the stout build that applies well to the line. And I know one of the things that people was probably dropped him to the 6th round. People were saying, well, he's got a problem against interior offensive linemen. That's not going to transfer to the next level. But we both know that the Lions may end up using him more on the outside or where he's not necessarily matching up on the inside and having to overpower people.
Oh, for sure. And you got to love his story coming all the way from D2 and then making his way up to northern Illinois, and then transferring over to Texas Tech. And yeah, I think between his size and his unfortunate injury that stopped him from testing this year, I think kind of bounced him down. But he's everything. He's hard. He's grit. He's ready to bully that next person. He doesn't need to necessarily win, but if he can cause enough havoc, I think there's enough juice up in the front that will make any quarterback uncomfortable. Especially if Tyreek takes a nice little step up in year 2, which I think they have the utmost confidence in it. Letting DJ Reader go, he can man that middle right next to Aleem, and unfortunately with Anzalone leaving, kind of leaves that little hole at linebacker. But I think they brought in plenty of reinforcements to help along there, and I think Gil Howard is exactly that. That's not necessarily starting, but like I said with Abney, bringing him for a handful of snaps just to give offensive lines a different look, and surprise every once in a while. I mean, if you're like a kind of different player, but like James Houston, smaller one but speedy on the edge, and grab you a few sacks. I don't think you really can complain from a production point for a 6th-round pick.
Definitely not. And I also think Eric Hunter could be in the mix of somebody that they envision being kind of that James Houston combo piece on the outside. But as far as the linebackers go, I think what we might be seeing is that the vision is to have some more flexible pieces in place of the linebackers where they have a glut of defensive backs right now, and I could see some of those guys filling in, but it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and covering the draft with us and giving us your thoughts. Make sure to tell the people where they can follow you here, social media and otherwise.
Yeah, you can follow me on X at Zach Moran 45. And try to post anything I can, and gearing up for the season.
Definitely. It's going to be a fun season. Like we said, they've got a lot of depth. They've got a lot of hope, I think, and so I think they're well prepared headed into the season. But appreciate you previewing it with us, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Zach. Talk to you later.
Thanks
to Zach Moran. Appreciate him coming on and taking us through his thoughts on the draft. There will be more thoughts to come on all the shows on the network here, because there's a lot of thoughts to be had with the draft, an interesting cycle here. But we're going to turn our attention to Greg McAleenan after the break. He's going to talk about some of his history with sports and his local charity that he has going, Go Replay Toys. It's an interesting outfit that I'm excited to talk to him about. So stick with us. You're listening to the Sports Project Primetime on Jethro FM. Filling in for the sports professor, not substitute professor, mind you. Steve always wants me to be the substitute professor. I'm not qualified to be that. So we're rolling out the TV, and I'm the substitute teacher. But excited to have Greg McAleenan on. I'm excited to talk to him about his charity that he has going. But Greg, on my shows that I host, we always celebrate the thing of the day. So on the way in, I'd like to know Greg McAleenan's favorite beverage.
My favorite beverage would have to be still, and I don't even know if they make it anymore, Tahitian Treat. It's what I drank all through high school and college. Loved it.
That's an interesting choice. See, this is a good one to celebrate because it's very random what you can have. There's a lot of choices here. I'm Googling this. I've heard about it. Okay, so it's kind of like a Hawaiian punch kind of thing?
It's like a carbonated Hawaiian punch. And my mom used to go out and buy a case of that stuff, and God, I'd get in trouble. I'd literally get home and I'd drink a six-pack of it. God, thank God it was non-alcoholic.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look this up more. Was it made by Canada Dry? I'm seeing Canada Dry branding on it.
That may very well be. That would make sense.
That's interesting. See, that's an off the board choice. If somebody chooses Yoo-Hoo, I'm going to be very excited. Because, like, when you said, Big G's give me a look, what's wrong with Yoo-Hoo? That would be a good one. I feel like Yoo-Hoo would be a fun one. Kind of like Tahitian Treat is a fun one. But no, we appreciate you joining us here, Greg. I'm excited to talk to you about this charity operation that you have going, because it's a cool concept, and I've always been big on the idea of paying things forward. I like that as a concept. I think it's wise. I think it shows good morals and character, and I also think it helps you. I've told people when I give them advice sometimes about, how can I help myself, or how can I feel better? Sometimes doing something for somebody else makes you feel better about yourself, and it's a wheel that keeps spinning. And so Go Replay Toys is kind of like that. It keeps it gets more use out of these sports items and out of things, and it makes everybody feel better through the process. So I'm curious to learn more about it.
Well, appreciate it. It's something I'm very passionate about. Go stands for Get One, Give One. When you talk about Play It Forward, which is one of our taglines, what we're hoping is that kids, when they get a new toy or a new piece of sports equipment, they'll take a look and see what they have that they're no longer playing with that's still in great shape, and say, you know what, I can donate that. And there are places like Goodwill and others that are great organizations that you can also go to, and they'll resell those to somebody to earn money for their mission. What we do, however, is make those things available to kids for free. Our kind of three pillars are: we want to ignite kid philanthropy, we want to protect the planet, and we want to inspire learning through play and activity. So the very first one is every kid can discover that they can make a difference. They don't have to wait to be an adult and make a financial donation somewhere or do something significant like that. They can go right now into their bedrooms, into their garages, and say, do I have a gently used toy? Do I have an old football, basketball, soccer ball, baseball glove, bat that I'm not really using, that's just sitting in the garage? But if we give it to Go-Go's Replay Toys, some kid, like on May 21st, we're going to Boys and Girls Club and doing a big celebration of them concluding their school year, and the kids are going to get a chance to come in and pick out a toy for themselves for the summer. So sports equipment is kind of the theme for that. So we love that. I ask kids when they come in, how how many toys do you think end up in a landfill or incinerator or the ocean every year? And I get kids saying, 100 pounds, 200,000. The other day, somebody said 47 million. That's been the closest. 1 billion pounds of toys go into oceans and landfills every year.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, it is unbelievable. And that's where we're hoping that kids will really embrace this concept of get one, give one. And while we're starting to spit in the ocean, spit on a fire as far as protecting the planet, that's a real key component of what we're doing. And then lastly, every study out there talks about the benefits of kids in play, creativity, imagination, rule making, sharing, all those sorts of things come about. We all remember going up to the ballpark as kids and picking your team, and from lunchtime to dark, staying up there and making up our own rules and playing games, whatever. So we're trying to make that affordable for kids at a time when it's hard to put even food on the table. Go-Go's Replay Toys is that resource to help families celebrate the holidays, big events, birthdays, or just reward kids for good behavior. Come on down and find yourself a toy that you're going to find some joy out of, and we'll keep the planet in good shape, and we can make kids feel good that they can make a difference.
I love it, especially from all those angles that you were describing, because it's like some of my friends, a lot of my friends have kids, and they are fortunate enough to have garages filled with toys and sports items, balls, sticks, whatever. And I know some of them kind of lament, like, well, what are we going to do with all this stuff? This is too much stuff. And unfortunately, that's probably why some of it ends up in the landfill. But there's no need for that, because you just need to kind of even it out a little bit and say, okay, if this garage has too many toys in it, let's put a few in the garages or in the areas that aren't as plentiful and don't have access to that kind of stuff. And it's cool to think about with this program that at some point you're going to put a ball in someone's hand or a stick in someone's hand, and that person's going to end up being a professional athlete, and the first item they got was from your program. That's foreseeable with this. That's obviously not the goal, but it's cool to think of the possibilities for this young person that you just initiated in that way.
There you go. Possibilities. For folks that are listening and thinking, oh boy, should I make the effort to corral some stuff and donate it, we're hoping that that's exactly what they're going to think, is we could make a difference. And it's a difference whether or not this kid has a glove to go play up at the ballpark, a basketball to go shoot hoops with, a soccer ball to kick around with somebody in the neighborhood. All of those things make a difference. And if kids know that there are people out there that care about them enough to make this stuff available, it's a wonderful thing. We had the opportunity to go down to Boys and Girls Club at Christmas, and our theme for that was we brought about 300 toys there, and rather than the kids picking out toys for themselves, they got to come in and pick out presents for their brothers and sisters. And the smiles on their face almost matched the smiles on the adults who were volunteering that day, because we saw these kids having so much fun picking stuff out, and they were going to be the gift giver. They were the ones that were putting stuff in these bags we'd gotten for them to put things under the tree, and it made our day more than theirs.
Oh, definitely. And that's how it works. It feels better to give something often than receive, and you're kind of giving that gift to people too. Yeah. So it's a great program. I'm glad you guys are getting it off the ground. For those that are interested, which I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are interested, tell people how they can get more involved and how they can participate here.
Sure. First thing, go to our website, gogosreplaytoys.org. If they have toys that they would like to drop off, our warehouse/office is at 400 Ann Street, Northwest, at the corner of Ann and Turner Streets. The back door is always open. There's a vestibule there that people can drop stuff off. Steve Project did that with about 8 basketballs the other day, which was wonderful. And we also have hours that people are regular hours that people can just come on in and take a look around and see the place. We've had number of students come down to help clean and sort toys, from West Catholic to St. Paul the Apostle to Davenport University. East Grand Rapids Middle School was just there. We even had a Cub Scout group in. So people are more than welcome to come and volunteer and help sort and clean toys, drop off, use sporting goods equipment, which is, as I said, a big theme for us with these kids coming up for the summer. Look up our website, give us a call. We'd love to talk to people about the mission, the project, and get people involved, because what we're doing is setting a model here in West Michigan that in 2 years we hope is going to be scalable, and that with some of the national partners like a Boys and Girls Club or the Catholic Diocese or other Rotary, what have you, that we can present them with a playbook to say, if you want to do Go-Go's in your community, here's how you do it. So we need the help of West Michigan to make sure we get it done right, and really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show and talk about it.
Definitely. I'm glad you came on, and there is a lot of opportunity here, and I'm glad you're getting it started. But say it ain't so here, Greg. Does that mean that Steve is retired? He's retired from basketball? He gave all his basketballs away?
That is a great question, and I don't think that day will ever come. So if he needs one, tell him you know a good place to get one.
Exactly. We'll be able to get one back for him. We'll share one with him, and we'll play it forward here. But
awesome.
But no, appreciate you coming on the show, and be sure to check out the website and check out all the great things they're doing. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon here, Greg.
Appreciate it, Ryan. You have a good night.
All right. Thanks. You too. Thanks to Greg McAleenan. Appreciate him coming on and talking about his initiative and project and charitable organization that he has going. But we're going to turn our attention to the big race coming up. Steve always covers the races. He does a good job covering the race scene. And so we're going to talk about the Riverbank Run with one of their partners here, Jacob Bonema, a friend of mine, friend of the show. He's been on the show several times, and he's brought us some swag, so we're happy about that, and we'll talk to him after the break. So stick with us. You're listening to the Sports Project Primetime on Jethro FM. Whenever I host Steve's show, I try to get people that maybe are on both shows or we know. And I mean, the sports professor knows everybody. Every time I meet somebody in town, somebody that's involved in sports or involved in this part of the world in West Michigan, they all know Steve Project. So I actually met Jacob Bonema recently at a trade show, and we've become connected. And I figured out shortly after that he's been on Steve's show, knows Steve, was on here for a couple interviews because his sons were both pretty prominent players at Steve's alma mater, Western Michigan.
Yeah,
so that's
Broncos. Broncos have been kicking butt lately.
Yeah,
doing well the last couple of years.
They're on the rise just in general. I mean, obviously the hockey program has been doing very well, but the football program's on the rise, and Steve always covers all of that stuff because he's a proud Bronco himself, and so shout out to the Broncos. My mom actually went to Western Michigan as well, so wow. So she's a proud Bronco. But there's a lot in this area. But Jacob's got a really interesting history.
By the way, before we jump,
go ahead. Go.
I'm in football withdrawals. I've had boys in football since we could stand them up. And, Boone played 6 years for the Broncos.
Nice.
And middle linebacker, team captain, had a blast. And then it stops, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, something's been such a big part of your life for all those years is done. And we're still thrilled to watch the Broncos on the rise because all that work that they put in that team is really paying off. But yeah, I mean, everybody thinks about it. One day it stops for the kids, but it stops for the parents too. I miss it.
It does, because we talk about this a lot on the show I have with Shane Graham. That'll be tomorrow. It's Thursday nights, 7 to 9 here on Jethro. But we talk with these players. I mean, whether you're in college, like your sons were, or you're lucky enough to advance to the pros, your career is short. It's a short career.
You really gotta enjoy it while you got it.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
You retire way earlier than a normal quote unquote job, and yeah, everybody that enjoyed watching you all throughout those years, they can't do it anymore. They're retired from their roles as well, and you as the dad following them around on the road and all of that. Yeah, you have to kind of hang up your cleats too.
And a bunch of these boys, they go on like Sky Moore, catching touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was in my son's class, and
oh, nice.
So I remember seeing Sky in the elevator when we were being recruited together, smile as wide as his face, just a nice guy. And then, he fast forward 2 years and he's, catching a Super Bowl touchdown with the Chiefs.
Oh, I know.
How cool is that?
Well, at least you can follow those guys through their journey, which is nice. Because there's a lot of Broncos in the NFL in general, and I think they're going to be putting more Broncos in the NFL with the strength of this program.
The NFL goes through Kalamazoo.
Exactly, exactly. So no, that's great. I'm glad you could join us here because we could go a lot of directions with this because I've been learning more and more about Jacob. I mean, he had a business where he did a fight league with Chuck Norris. This is not made up. Yeah. Sounds like something I would say and make something up because I put pieces together like that. That is a true statement, and that's incredible. He's got the connection to Western Michigan, but he's also a partner with the Riverbank Run. So we wanted to talk about that a little bit and kind of preview that because the races have always been very important to Steve. He's been the director of a lot of these races and heavily involved in the race community. So wanted to talk about the big run coming up.
This is the 49th run.
That's crazy.
That?
I can't. The run is older than me. I can't believe that.
It's as old as me. And to think that they have 7 people that are still running that have run in every single race, and they're going to be there Saturday again.
That's amazing to me that you can run because, I mean, no matter when they started, as far as like whatever age they were, I mean, you're probably talking about people that could be probably in their 70s at this point in time, and they're still running those races. I just learned from a contact of mine that there are people that run all of the races, that they run, the 5K, 10K, 25K. They just keep going and get back in the races. You'd have to have the nearest ambulance ready for me if that was the case. Exactly. Yeah. But it's amazing. It's great that this has been such a tradition here in Grand Rapids and in West Michigan, and I'm glad it's going strong. I mean, 49 years and stronger than ever, really. It just continues to grow.
And the weather's looking to be perfect. Get your family out there. I think they've got activities and races for all abilities, all ages. I believe just the 25K has a minimum age of 14, but the rest of them, you can go with your whole family and take the dog. You can have some fun out there. So it's a great day.
Oh, yeah, that's a great family activity to do because like Greg was saying in the last segment, you want to get out there. You want to move. These are good things to do as a family rather than be inside and not having the light and the sunlight and the movement. Our bodies are meant to move, and so this is a good way to do it. Yeah.
Have you been around the racers?
Yeah.
Oh, they're just the most positive people you ever talk to. They're always smiling, shaking hands. Hey, how are you? It's a great vibe.
Well, and you talk about, I love the adaptive part where you can, have different people that are in it because Mary Freebed used to be a sponsor on one of my shows, and we talked about a lot of the adaptive races, and it's very cool that, all that stuff can kind of coexist together because you look at some of those people that may have their disabilities or what have you, and they're out there doing it. If they're out there doing it, then us that are able-bodied,
let's get our rear ends. And it's not too late to register. We can register all the way up through Friday for the Saturday event.
That's great. Yeah.
So take advantage. It's going to be perfect year to do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then next year's the 50th. They're going to do something huge for that.
That's going to be a big event here because I can't believe it's 50. I didn't know that until you told me that it was 49. I guess it makes sense that it has been around since I was born, since before I was born. But yeah, great event. There's a reason that it has this longevity and everything. And you guys and your company, you've partnered with them, which is pretty cool because I want to tie this full circle. You talked about the Western Michigan program. Yeah. This is kind of an idea that was born out of the Western Michigan football program to a degree.
One time after a game, my son just kind of said, Dad, they give us honey at the halftime. I said, really? Because we own a honey company. He says, yeah, why don't we give our honey to the team? Then they can have our honey because our honey's better than their honey. I said, well, what are you getting? And they said stingers. So they're getting stingers from, the big box stores.
Okay.
It wasn't even West Michigan honey.
Right.
We've got 3,500 beehives here in West Michigan. Let's give these Western Michigan Broncos West Michigan honey.
Yeah.
It's the best honey in the world. It tastes different. It comes out of apple orchards and blueberry farms.
Oh, yeah.
It's not some of these, who knows where, cornfields. It's pretty special tasting honey. So I said, that's great because honey gives you energy naturally without the crash.
That's the big thing. Yeah, because you don't want to have that short, especially if you're in this race. I mean, you don't want to, you can't have a crash if you're in a 25K. If you're crashing at kilometer 10,
No.
you're in trouble.
No, you got a ways to go. You
Yeah.
need to last. You need that energy to kick in. And the way that honey's built, it gives you long-lasting natural energy. So he said, Dad, we need to put something together. So we started, figuring out what we could do, and we put something together called Bee Fuel. And the team started using it. They were kind of our test case scenario. This is 2 seasons ago. And we were able to mix local honey with bee pollen, which is an anti-inflammatory, and it helps your immune system, helps your muscle recovery and stamina. We put that with the honey, which gives you energy, and you've got a powerful package there.
Oh, because I'm somebody, I used to do a lot of weightlifting, had a lot of supplements and all of that kind of stuff, and it's nice when you can find something that's natural like that, because when you're putting all that other stuff in your body, it's not, we know it's not good for us. We all do it to a degree, but we know it's not good for us. So this is a good natural way to do it. So I'm glad you guys are partnering and that this is growing into something that now you're partnering with the Riverbank Run and all that.
As it started growing, the athletes started preferring this over some of the other things that they were tasting, which, there's others. I'm just going to drop names. Goo, all right? So that's the one that a lot of people are familiar with. It tastes bad.
I mean,
kind of
the name
salty,
isn't helping.
Yeah. But it's a gel. It doesn't digest very well. So there's some basic issues that we found out there, that the taste wasn't great and it doesn't digest well. I thought, well, let's put something in the market that is a better alternative to that, and it's natural. So we put together Bee Fuel. Our company, Big Bear Honey, launched Bee Fuel. It comes in 1 ounce packets, and we started giving it to the players at the halftime. Guess who won the MAC last season? I'm going to take full credit for that.
Yeah,
right?
you should.
Bee
It was
Fuel.
you and Steve Project.
Yeah.
It was both of you combined.
Steve and I, basically handed them the trophy. So yeah, no, but I'm really proud of the product. The logo, the design was done by other Western Michigan folks, and it's just been a great project. But so then we started working with some of the local running clubs, and they started giving us really positive feedback. And the next thing you know, the Riverbank Run said, hey, we'd really like to, have you be our energy partner this year. And I couldn't have been more ecstatic. What an honor.
Oh, yeah, especially for a long-running organization like this and race like this. And I think it's a great partnership. We appreciate you coming on and talking about it. I got 2 questions for you. I want to make sure to direct people to where they can find Big Bear Honey. And I didn't ask you on the way in, but what's your favorite beverage?
Yeah, I heard you ask the last guy that, and it got me thinking. My favorite beverage is the one my wife, my beautiful wife of 29 years, hands me when I wake up in the morning. It's not just a black cup of coffee, but she stirs in a little cinnamon creamed honey in there. So it's just coffee with some cinnamon cream. So good. Get your day started right.
I've had that. I actually put that in my lattes. No joke. I put the creamed honey in there that I got from your wife, that I purchased from your wife, and I put that in there. It is great. I can vouch for it for sure. But yeah, that's a good combination too. Coffee with a little sweet. Don't overload it, but just a little sweet there.
Just put that in there. That kind of just makes it just right. And then at the end of the day, if it's been a tough day, I'm going Long Island iced tea.
There you go. See, that's our first alcoholic beverage. We made it to 8 o'clock.
All right. Well,
with our first alcoholic
put some
beverage.
hair on your chest.
Yeah. No, nobody's chosen Yoo-Hoo yet. I'm a little disappointed.
No Yoo-Hoo.
Yeah, no Yoo-Hoo.
I've never tried putting a little.
Big
we
G's
have
clapping.
bourbon honey. We could put in Yoo-Hoo and see what.
There you
happens.
go.
That could be a science experience.
Yeah, that could be a nice treat. But yeah, in case people are looking, especially on the race day or otherwise, because you've got a lot of. We're talking about Bee Fuel and we're talking about the Riverbank Run, but there's a lot of varieties here that they have. A local company, good company to look into. So where can people find your items if they
our main
want to?
website is bigbearhoney.com, but we're also on the shelves at all the Harvest health food stores and Old World Olive, which is right downtown, kind of by Madcap and across from the Graham.
Okay.
But they've got our Bee Fuel packets there.
Nice.
You just take the 1 ounce packet 5 minutes before the activity, and you'll just feel that energy kind of come into you, and off you go.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, be sure to check them out. It's a great company. Like I said, local company, and we'll have to talk to Jacob more because, like I said, he's got some great stories, like the Fight League, all these different things. We could tell Chuck Norris stories. So
We got some Chuck Norris jokes we could pass on.
Exactly. Yeah, we've got more to cover here. But appreciate you coming on, and be sure to check out the Riverbank Run, the website there, and then Big Bear Honey. And we appreciate you coming on and joining us here, Jacob.
Love it. All right, hope to see everybody out there on Saturday.
Definitely. Yeah, it'll be a great day for it, and glad we could preview it here on the show. We're going to turn our attention to baseball, and Mark Dewey of the In the Bullpen podcast will come on and talk some baseball with us. So stick with us. You're listening to the Sports Project Primetime on Jethro FM. But talking with one of his regulars here, I'm excited to talk to Mark Dewey, former Major League pitcher. He has a great podcast that I actually listened to today. I listened to the most recent episode. It was a good episode about teammates. I'm excited to talk to him about that. And but we always, so on my shows, Mark, I host two of the other shows here at Jethro, and on my shows we always celebrate the National Day, and it's National Beverage Day. So what's Mark Dewey's favorite beverage?
Wow, that's a tough call. I drink more. I know what my favorite beverage is. We have a Jersey cow, and I keep a mug in the freezer, and so fresh Jersey milk in my frosty mug is probably my favorite beverage.
You can't beat that. That might be the winner so far because
it's like melted ice cream is what it is.
Yeah, I do have, when I do have milk, I do try to get the farm fresh milk here in Grand Rapids, and that's the best kind. That's a good answer. I didn't really anticipate that answer, but that's a good answer. That's what I like about this question because they've been very random answers. We've had everything from Tahitian treat to a cold glass of farm fresh milk. So I'm pleased with these answers and the array that we're having here. But I'm also pleased we can get you on the show here and talk some baseball. 'Tis the season to talk about baseball here. The Tigers have been kind of up and down a little bit, but I liked what I heard about your podcast here. I listened to the episode about being a good teammate, and I thought that was a good lesson for people because we like to talk about the deeper concepts in sports oftentimes on Jethro and Steve and I's shows. And one of the concepts that I think gets lost on people is there can be people in these sports, and these are all great athletes. All you guys that made it to the pros are phenomenal athletes. But the difference between sometimes a player that ends up working better in that professional environment is the one that's better at being a teammate. They're used to excelling individually, you guys all are, but it has to be about the greater good. If you're playing for a greater good, we above me, then you're usually more focused and more dedicated that way.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it also, if you're that kind of a teammate, because let's just take baseball, Major League Baseball, 26 men on the roster. Not all of them are going to be that kind of teammate. But if you're that kind of teammate, you help the team, but you also help those other guys say, you know what, I got to pick my game up a little bit. I'm being too selfish. Especially if you're a guy that's a really good, like perennial all-star kind of guy. If you're that kind of teammate, it makes it very, very hard for the other guys to be selfish.
Exactly, you're setting the pace. You're the leader, and you're setting the pace for the rest of the team because there's a lot of things, especially in baseball. You know this better than anybody, Mark. All these things are contagious that happen in the clubhouse. If somebody's got the yips a little bit with hitting, sometimes that can be contagious. If somebody's a little off and maybe not in the best mood, that can be contagious. But also the selflessness and the teamwork and that clubhouse camaraderie, that can be contagious in a good way as well. You spend so much time in that clubhouse. You got 162 games, and so all of those things compound. All those factors compound, and you've got to be very aware of the process and of what you're doing and how that butterfly effect is affecting everybody else.
That's right. I'm guessing, although I could be incorrect, I'm guessing Craig Counsell didn't come up with this himself, but when I was coaching with the Brewers and he was the manager of the Brewers, he always talked about there's a difference between playing with one another and playing for one another. He says you don't have a choice to play with one another. They're your teammates. we're going to be good if we play for one another. And I think that that's an outstanding point that he made, and I'm assuming he's still making it now with the Cubs.
Exactly. Yeah, you're pretty well connected with some of these guys that are managers. One of the guys that you brought up that was one of your managers, and I feel like I've seen a lot of quotes from this guy. I remember him, and I remember watching him as a manager, but it's almost surprising to me how many quotes I've seen. Obviously, there's some more quotable guys. I think you had a Yogi Berra quote. He's one of the most quotable baseball players of all time because of the kind of prophetic but ironic way that he spoke. but Clint Hurdle is a guy that I feel like I hear people speak very highly of, and the amount of wisdom that he bestowed upon his teams and fellow managers and coaches and all of that. It just seems like he's a guy that I'm hearing more and more from former players like yourself that we're lucky enough to be with him for a while.
Yes, no doubt about it. He's been doing it a long time, and he wrote a book that came out. I'm going to say it's been about 2 years now, called Hurdleisms. So a lot of those quotes he has in those books, and then he's doing a lot of stuff on social media these days, and he still works with the Rockies in a capacity. But he is a guy that, a lot of people don't know this. When he came out of high school, he had three major options on his plate. One was to go play baseball and football as a quarterback at the University of Miami. The second, which he chose, was to sign as a professional baseball player. And the third was he could have gone to Harvard. So he had a lot going for him as an 18-year-old young man, but he also went through a lot, and he talks about that a lot. And a lot of his wit and wisdom comes not only from the good times, but from some really difficult times.
That's often where we get our wisdom is from those tough times and learning from mistakes, our mistakes, other people's mistakes, whatever. You learn that's kind of the pressure that forms the diamond to a degree, where you learn from those mistakes and you learn from those tough times.
It's absolutely right.
But I didn't know that he was born in Big Rapids.
Yes, and he was I don't know when he moved down to Florida. But yes, he was born in Big Rapids, and I know he's been a Tigers and a Lions fan. I don't know about the Pistons, I would assume so, but I know Tigers and Lions fan.
Yeah, apparently age 4, his father took a job at the Kennedy Space Center, and he moved down to Florida.
Okay.
So that was a tidbit I didn't know. I didn't know it was a fellow Michigander like you are as well. So that's interesting. But let's talk about those Tigers a little bit, because I'm curious your thoughts on everything that's happening with them right now. Because they came in with high hopes. They've been a team that's rallied pretty well, that's played pretty well as a team, which is always fun to watch as a fan. They've got that team atmosphere, but they're also dealing with a lot of injury issues here and everything. So I'm curious how you've taken in kind of the first fifth of the season so far.
Well, obviously the huge injury just happened. I was actually watching the game when Skubal called, I can't remember who was catching now, but when he called the catcher out and he was shaking his forearm, I was actually watching the game. And I said, oh boy. And then they left him in. I said, I can't believe they're leaving him in. That obviously, it could be an injury that is minor in its significance and very limited in the time he'll have to spend on the DL. We'll have to wait and see. He was supposed to have surgery today. I've not heard how that has gone. Obviously, Verlander's injury is big. You also have Olson's injury and others. I was watching the game tonight just prior to coming on with you, and they were struggling defensively behind Flaherty. They haven't put it all together yet. If we go back to the be a good teammate, it's sometimes hard to judge from a distance, but I think I'm accurate to say that Framber Valdez has not proven himself to be a very good teammate, both with what he did in Houston and then what he did against the Red Sox the other night. He's with Skubal done for some period of time with all the other injuries going on, Mize and Olson and all of that. You cannot do what he did. That it was, from what I can tell, a completely selfish thing. And so now he's going to miss a start. He needs to be better than that. He needs to be a better teammate than that. And hopefully somebody like a Verlander, somebody who's been around a long time and obviously is on his way to the Hall of Fame, can tell Valdez, hey, wait a second. We need to be better than that. You need to be better than that. We need you to be a good team.
Exactly. And I mean, it couldn't have, not that you want to hide that stuff, but you were a pitcher. I don't know if you ever had to deal with any of that or if you were directed to do that at any point in time, but it has been part of the game. Thankfully, it's not as prominent where people are directing people to do that. But yeah, going across as a left-hander and then hitting somebody on the inside, you kind of knew that was happening that way. And like you said, it just doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the team. It doesn't help him and his reputation. It doesn't help a potential injury of the other player, of Trevor Story, and doesn't help the Red Sox. Doesn't help the baseball in general.
Right, and you're always putting at risk your own teammate. When you do that to Trevor Story, the question is a Red Sox pitcher going to do that to Spencer Torkelson or Riley Green? Right? You're always, and there are times, I think even still today, there are times in which actually both teams know somebody deserves to be hit right here. But that wasn't one of them. Framber Valdez was getting his lunch handed to him when he did that. That was completely selfish. Like I said, at least when I played, and I think it's still the case today, I remember a situation where somebody for the Dodgers, and I was with the Giants at the time, did something, and everybody in both dugouts knew this guy deserves to be hit. But what happened the other night was not that kind of a situation.
Exactly. And that is interesting. I'd like to expand upon that a little bit because it is interesting. I think baseball fans know what you're talking about, but for those that don't, yeah, there's certain situations that's kind of how you take care of things in baseball. Sometimes you can't always, you don't have, contact. It's not like football where you can kind of take things out that way. So that's where the contact can be. And at some points that's where you kind of check that particular player. And like you said, even though a team doesn't want to see their own player hit, they go, okay, yeah, well, if you had me on a lie detector, I'd say, yeah, he probably deserved it.
Yes. I had a former manager. I don't want to name his name, but it rhymes with Dusty Baker, who used to say, and again, you never want to hurt or injure the player, right? That's why you throw at the rib cage, the hip area. But when Dusty was talking, he would say, what you want to do is you want to get him in the rib cage. You don't want to injure him. You don't want to make him miss any action, but you want to hit him, and you want to do so that when his wife that night rolls over and puts her arm around him, he goes, oh, babe, that hurts.
That's such a specific situation. I love it. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and that's true. You don't want to hurt them. You don't want to injure them. Well, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. So you don't want to injure them, and you don't want to put them on the injured list or anything like that. But yeah, make them feel it for a night or two.
Yes. Again, I look at it as it should never be revenge. Dusty also called a pitcher in, who I will not name, because he hit a guy after giving up a home run, and Dusty aired him out. Says, we don't do that, right? So it's not about revenge. It's about discipline. It's saying to this person, that's not how you're supposed to play the game of baseball. If it's done with the idea of discipline, that's one thing. If it's done for revenge, from my perspective, from Dusty's perspective, from the perspective of a lot of people, that's not acceptable.
Well, and there's so much of this that goes on in baseball. I'm intrigued by the conversation because, as you know better than anybody, being in all those locker rooms, there's so much of this kind of kangaroo court, unofficial litigation that goes on in baseball, where the rules are pretty clear to the people within the game, within the scope of things, but outside it may look a little strange, but the people in the game know exactly what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. And again, it's changed a lot. I've been out now as far as a player for 30 years, and it has definitely changed a lot. But there's still a good number of people in there that understand the necessity to do it and what makes it a necessity and what is inexcusable. I still think that there's there's a good number of people, because there's still a number of managers and coaches that understand that and convey it to their teams.
Exactly. And yeah, I don't think most of the people on that field wanted that to happen that way, other than I guess Valdez, but most of the other people, yeah, it didn't positively affect them. And hopefully they can recover from here, because like you said, there's some big injuries. You got the Scooble thing. The timetable for his return is going to be interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with that injury, or have seen anything like that yourself, but it's always tough, because just being off a little bit could be an issue for a guy that's throwing that fast and working his arm that hard.
Yeah. So from what I know and from what I've heard about what his injury is, and of course once you get in there, you might find that something different is going on, something additional. But if it is just loose bodies floating around that they take out, my understanding, and I was reading actually something from Kurt Schilling, who had that procedure done, the recovery can be extraordinarily quick. Basically, you have to keep from throwing until the incision heals. So it could be that he could be back in a matter of 3 weeks. I've been reading 2 to 3 months. Again, the surgery was supposed to be today. I'm assuming it did take place today. I have not heard anything about how it went and what they found in there, but I would guess in the next 24 hours we'll probably have a better idea of the estimated time for him to return.
And like from being in the game and having to recover from injuries yourself and watching teammates go through it, I mean, everybody has a different timeline with this kind of stuff. Scooble's a tough guy, and he's a bulldog out there, but you have to see how his body responds to the surgery. And like you said, did you find something additional in there?
Exactly. I mean, that's going to be the big thing. If it's what they thought it was, it should be relatively short, comparatively speaking. If they came across something else, well, that could be a whole different story.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a tough blow, because we're talking about kind of the totality of some of these moves. This has a lot of ramifications for Scooble and the Tigers. He's in a pivotal point in his career, and the Tigers are trying to make a run, and you've got Scooble where he's hurt at a time where, okay, I don't know if they were going to trade him anyways, but that probably reduces that possibility. And now with him trying to get the big payday, we'll see how this affects things. But yeah, it's just unfortunate from a lot of fronts here.
It is, definitely.
But interesting stuff. Glad you could come on and kind of talk through some of the things that are going on here. Be sure to direct people to your podcast, because I want to make sure they can follow that and hear a lot of the insights that we were talking about today.
Yeah, so my podcast is called In the Bullpen. I think technically it's In the Bullpen with Mark Dewey. It's hosted on the Fight Laugh Feast network, but it's also found on the various Spotify, Apple, those kind of things. Drops every Monday at noon. So once a week at noon, and usually is between 20 and 30 minutes.
A variety of subjects covered there. I was perusing it today in preparation for the show. I talked about the teammates one, but a lot of different subject matters from a guy that was in there, coaching, playing, all of that stuff. So appreciate you joining the show, Mark, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
It was great, Ryan. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Mark.
You bet.
Thanks to Mark Dewey. Appreciate him joining us and talking some baseball here. I'm going to check in with Big G here real quick, and then after that, we'll probably bring on Dave Dalton, the Pistons fanatic, and talk to him about said Pistons here, who are hopefully undergoing a run as we speak, coming back in the Magic series. But stick with us. You're listening to the Sports Project Primetime on Jethro FM here, and I'm coming back here with Big G in studio. Big G, I'm curious. We've had a lot of good answers. We got one guest to go, and I do know this guest somewhat well. He's from my podcast. I've met him in person, and he. His answer might be a little limited on the question of the day. I'm curious what his answer is going to be, but we've had some good answers for favorite drink. I feel like. Do you have a favorite so far of people's favorite beverage?
I think the cow's milk so far has been my favorite, most unique answer. The Long Island iced tea does seem apropos after a long, bad day. So, I can't fault a guy for that. But
yeah, he couched it well. He had his beginning of the day drink, and he had his end of the day drink.
Yes, he did.
At least he didn't start with a Long Island iced tea. That probably, that might have been a little problematic if he started the day. If he said, "Oh, my wife brings me a drink and it's a Long Island iced tea at 7:30 in the morning," maybe that's not the time. But who am I to judge?
Well, if he works third shift, that might be.
That's
okay.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. See, that's why we can't judge these people. I do think milk, a fresh glass of milk,
Yes.
is the right answer. Like, just in general, it's not what I had, but it's a right answer. I don't know if it's the right answer, but it's a right answer.
Well, there's not a whole lot of wrong answers. So,
Well, is Yoo-hoo a wrong answer?
absolutely.
Well, why? Okay, what do you have against Yoo-hoo? I feel like I'm surprised. So you've tried Yoo-hoo? I take it, and you don't care for it.
Yes, it's phony chocolate milk.
What if they're going to be a sponsor on the show? We're insulting Yoo-hoo.
Huh?
I said, what if they're going to be a sponsor on the show? You're insulting Yoo-hoo here. Is Yoo-hoo? Are they still actively selling? I don't see it on
It's
the
mostly
shelves.
in the southern states.
Okay. The glass bottle seems very inconvenient as someone that owns a warehouse that does a lot of shipping. The glass bottle is inconvenient for that. Yeah, what is it? It's chocolate water, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's shelf stable chocolate milk substitute.
Yeah.
I shouldn't do their marketing with that
No,
with that
I
ploy.
wouldn't either,
That
and
doesn't that doesn't work. Okay, so do we want to take a guess? You don't know Dave Dalton, but I
don't.
But do you want to take a guess of his favorite beverage? Because I want to take a guess.
Well, why don't you take a guess?
I know that he's not a drinker, so he's not going to have an alcoholic drink. I'll give you that as a clue.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with iced tea. I think.
It's not a bad guess.
Yeah, that's my best guess. I don't think he drinks pop either. I don't remember. That's the possibility there.
Right.
But we'll see. We'll talk.
I'm gonna guess lemonade.
I like that. That's good. So between our guesses, he can have an Arnold Palmer.
Yes, he can.
I like that. Iced tea and lemonade combined. That's also a right answer.
Yes,
I feel like that's
Yes,
a
it
right
is.
answer. I'm an iced tea drinker. I don't drink a ton of Arnold Palmers. I don't do the lemonade, but that's a right answer still.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
not my own biases in there. There's just some things that are objectively a right answer, and I feel like that's a right
Yeah.
answer. But we'll find out after the break. We'll have Dave Dalton on, the Pistons fanatic. He does a great podcast, and we'll get his thoughts on the Pistons, and we'll get his favorite drink. So stick with us. You're listening to the Sports Project Primetime on Jethro FM. I've got a guy that's used to teaching and coaching basketball and used to talking about the Pistons. He's a friend of mine from my show, and so happy to welcome in Dave Dalton of the Pistons Fanatic podcast. And you know how we do it on my show, Dave. We always have a thing of the day, and I'm very curious of your answer to this because I have been out with you, and I realize that you're somewhat limited in this category, as I am. I'm curious what your favorite beverage is on National Beverage Day.
Well, my favorite beverage is Dr. Pepper Zero mixed with strawberry banana V8 Fusion.
What?
I drink it every day. Dr. Pepper Zero mixed with strawberry banana V8 Fusion.
Okay. We had Big G and I were talking in studio here just before the segment, and we were kind of grading the answers so far. Somebody said that they have like a frosted mug in their refrigerator, and then they go out and they get milk fresh from the cow. We thought that was kind of objectively a right answer. This is a wild answer, and therefore I like it very much. This is also a right answer.
The Dr. Pepper Zero is good, but it has 0 calories. And then the strawberry banana V8 Fusion has not that it's low in sugar, but it tastes good, and it also has nutrients. So you're getting the best of both worlds.
How did you think to combine these two things initially? I think of this with certain things. It's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's very natural to us now. But whoever first took peanut butter and then put it on bread and then said, you know what I need on this? I need a sugary jammed fruit on top of this. How did you think to put those two together?
Well, it's because I always am trying to lose weight, and so I always try to not drink too many calories, but then I always also try to be healthy, and so the strawberry banana, I like strawberry banana flavor very much, and I used to mix like Coke Zero with cherry Coke, regular Coke, and then that tasted really good, but it was, not as healthy for you, and it had more calories in it. So anyway, that's just why I came up with it. I wanted something that was a little bit nutritious but low in calories.
We tried to guess what your drink was going to be, and we couldn't have guessed this in 1,000 guesses. This is an incredible answer, and we're going to call it the Dave Dalton. We're going to call that drink the Dave Dalton. It's got to be like the Arnold Palmer. We got to brand it now.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had some people that have tried it. Usually, everybody says yuck when they hear me talk about it, act disgusted. But the people that have tried it have liked it. So I don't know.
I like it. I don't drink pop anymore, but I might just have to try this. I might have to break the streak and try it. But that's a great answer. I'm glad I asked you this. But we got to get your Pistons takes here because this is exciting here, Coach. I mean, I haven't talked to you in a bit about the Pistons. I know it was looking a little bleak, and they made it look about as bleak as they could. But now they are back, and this is a fun run. That maybe not great for our blood pressure overall, but fun basketball and giving us a lot of bonus basketball here.
Well, I believe in our team, and I love them because they never give up. They always are going to fight. But I'll admit, in Game 6 against Orlando, at halftime, I was at an AU tournament, and a bunch of the coaches were at a bar, but I didn't want to go to the bar. I don't drink, for one thing, but I wanted to just focus on the game. But then at halftime, I went to the bar because it was over. And then those guys, they came back, and it just was like surreal how they came back. I mean, that's been their MO. They've never given up. How many games in the last 2 years have they lost by a lot of points? Have they got blown out? They hardly ever get blown out, even if they might be getting blown out during the course of the game, but they always end up coming back. They're just incredible, determined guys and have a lot of fight in them.
Well, that's one of the things that I was really focused on heading into the playoffs because, as you know, I mean, you follow this stuff, you cover it for your podcast, and I'm sure you've seen kind of the national discourse versus maybe the more local beat stuff, and the national discourse on the Pistons is largely, I think they're kind of overlooked for a team that's first in the East, and I'm not saying that as a local homer, as somebody that covers the Pistons. I mean, when they were previewing the Eastern Conference semifinals, as it were, and the matchup with the Cavs and then the matchup on the other side, they were talking about how all these teams have a chance, and then they proceeded to mention 3 of the 4 teams and not the team that's number 1 in the East. And it's just kind of interesting how that happens, but I also think it fuels the Pistons, and I think it's perfect. I like that it's happening. I don't even want them to get more respect because I think they're being motivated by this.
I think no doubt they are feeling motivated. I do get angry though, Ryan, when
I don't blame you.
They do discount us in every way, and they discount JB for Coach of the Year, and I'm not all about everything he does, but he deserves to be Coach of the Year, and they'll say things about our team. I heard somebody talk about us and that they discounted us, and they gave Cleveland more credit because we probably would have lost if Franz Wagner would have played the whole series. Well, we might have. We'll never know. But Cleveland was playing Toronto, and Toronto didn't have their only point guard, Emmanuel Quigley, and Ingram didn't play the last 2 games. So, it's just, but they don't consider that, or they consider how Joe Mazzulla deserves Coach of the Year because this is supposed to be a gap year, and they exceeded expectations or whatever. Well, our team won 14 games 2 years ago, and nobody had us. People had been going into this year. We were, I think, the consensus probably was like 6th, maybe 5th, and Orlando Magic, they were supposed to be like the 3rd best team. It was Cleveland, New York, Orlando, Atlanta, and then I don't know who else in the Detroit. And so, yeah, I know that fuels us, but also our guys, they fuel themselves. They winning those 14 games only that 2 years ago, that fuels them still. Losing to the Knicks last year really fueled them, and we could have lost. The one thing I don't hate about sports, but fans, I think that don't always understand that playoffs are very fragile. One team can win and one team can lose. I mean, we were tied last night, 93-93 with 5 minutes to go, and then Cade takes over and gets the ball to Duran for 3 dunks, and then we're off. Things can happen last night or the other night when the Spurs lost. So that game could have ended up deciding the Spurs are playing the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves were not favored to win, and they were ahead, and the Spurs missed a good look at a 3 at the end, and that game, that one game right there could end up being a determining factor in who wins that series. It's just the playoffs, anything can happen. The Boston Celtics, everybody had them over us. Everybody favored. They were the favorite by far to win the East. By far, the voting odds, the consensus among all the national podcasters and ESPN people, the Celtics were the best team. And guess what? They played the 7th seed, and they're home. And so it's just interesting how that goes.
Exactly. And I always follow, I don't bet, but I follow the betting lines. And yeah, Boston was by far the runaway favorite in the Eastern Conference. And then I think it was New York and Cleveland after them. And then Detroit, number 4, heading into the playoffs as the number 1 seed.
And it still has been that way. Even I think it still might be that way now, as far as I know. The last time I saw it, that's how they were ranked. And it doesn't, we don't get respect. And we do have flaws. I mean, in the flaws seem to be apparent when we were down 3-1. That we knew we didn't have enough shooting, and we knew we didn't have secondary ball handler, and so those things that we need that hurt us. But we also have a lot of gritty guys that are tough and that never give up and share the ball and play hard. So that goes a long way.
Well, that brings up 2 points that I was going to talk about with you, because there's 2 things that you're kind of talking about there. The first is this is a bit of a war of attrition in the playoffs, because yes, injuries factor in, and that's unfortunate when a guy gets hurt and you don't have the full team. I mean, we saw it in the finals last year. Halliburton got hurt in the final game. Who knows how that would have gone? But with the Pistons, that's one reason I have believed in them for this playoff run, because they are a deep team. If they have somebody that goes down or somebody that's not playing up to the level that they want them to, they can switch them out, obviously other than Cade, but pretty much everywhere else they can handle an injury to a degree. Hopefully they don't have one to a shooter, because they've already got Herter out, and they need guys like Robinson. But they do have a deep team, and that's what I wondered in these series. Like I remember saying before the playoffs started, hey, the Pistons might not come out and jump on everybody, but they're going to be tough to play in a 7-game series. And yes, they were without Wagner, but it still was a tough series as it went on with Orlando. They were getting worn out.
Right. Yes. Well, and I do get concerned that Cade, he played, I think, 44 minutes last night. So Ryan, they are grabbing Cade. They are just mugging him. Every time off the ball, they got both arms wrapped around him, and it's not ever called. He has to expend so much energy just to try to get open, because they like bear hug him, and I don't understand what the rule is. It's right out in front of everybody, and they just let him play that way. But anyway, the injury thing, I wanted to bring up this. So Herter, I thought, could be a difference maker and help us win in the playoffs. He was playing really well, and he handles the ball. The last game he played, he played 1 game. The last game he played in, actually, he only played 2 minutes. I think that he must have tried to play, but the injury made him stop. But the game prior to that, he played limited minutes, but he had 5 assists. He handles the ball. He makes good decisions. He creates shots. He's a better defender than Duncan. He's taller, and he didn't shoot that great all year, but towards the end of the year, he started shooting better. So I'm disappointed. But Sam Merrill, so this could be a key. Sam Merrill last night left the game, I think a hamstring, and did not return. He never misses. He never misses a three. And so we might catch a break there with him not playing. And then we have, I don't know, Isaiah Stewart, is he hurt? I mean, there's people that have speculated that, and I don't know if people with internal knowledge have said that, but he's hardly played in a lot of games. He might have played 13 minutes last night, so I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, that is a big factor here, and I'm glad you brought up Merrill because he's somebody that's played very well against the Pistons historically as well, no matter what team he's been on actually, and so yeah, definitely a knockdown shooter that you need in the playoffs. But I'm curious who stuck out to you in the playoffs so far because it's been fun to see who's. That we talk about kind of the lack of shooting and there's always the narrative of the lack of help that Cade gets, but I don't think he would like that narrative. I think he feels like, the players are pitching in, and they did get some help from maybe some unlikely places that people didn't really figure in the first round. And I'm sure you were happy to see a couple of those guys, especially the forwards, play pretty well in that series.
Well, I love Cade, but my second best favorite player, and this is probably not who you're talking about, but Asar is just unbelievable, and it just flabbergasted me. He had a game in the Orlando series where he played 9 minutes only in the second half, and he was like 4 for 5 and 5 assists and all that. He does everything. He gets rebounds and blocks. That one game he had 4 blocks in the second half, and he just does so many things to create shots. He had 5 assists last night. He was like 4 for 6 or 4 for 5, and 5 rebounds and 4 assists and 3 steals and 2 blocks. I don't know what he had, but he's been doing it every game, and plus making it tough for Donovan Mitchell. So Mitchell did not have a great game. He still had 23 points and shot fairly decent, but he has certainly stopped him. I wouldn't want Asar guarding me. I know that, and I don't think Mitchell likes him guarding him either.
That's actually one of the players I was talking about. I know you're an Asar fan, and so I kind of set it up that way. But Asar and Tobias both played very well in that series.
Tobias is. So I love Tobias. When Tobias played for Orlando, the year before we got him the first time, I was saying we should get him. He was young. They acted like he was expendable. He was very young and very talented. I hadn't watched him play much, but if you just looked at his stats, but he is. I get a big kick out of him. He's. I think in that game 7 when he did the too small thing, and he was. He's just the classiest guy in the world, but he was showing a little bit of swag there. But the truth is, he's had a bunch of games where he has not shot that great. I mean, last night his shooting percentage was not good, but we don't win these games without him. I mean, he scored 20 points. I mean, in one game he was like 7 for 20, and that's not very good. But we don't win that game if he's not. In the playoffs, you don't get many easy looks, so you got to have tough guys. Like Jordan was so great in the playoffs because he could make that fadeaway jumper with somebody on him, and he could make that consistently. So, no matter how tough the defense was. But Tobias has got that turnaround fadeaway, and he's shot the 3 really poorly most of the playoffs. His percentage is really down. But was it Game 7 that he shot it so well? It wasn't last night, was it? I think it was Game 7 against Orlando. But he has been a huge difference. We would be not playing still if it wasn't for Tobias Harris.
Oh, I totally agree, and same could be said for Thompson too, because he affects the game everywhere. But we appreciate you joining the show, Coach, and hopefully we'll have more opportunities to talk here with a longer run. But be sure to tell people where they can follow you and get more of your thoughts and coverage here.
Okay, I'm on YouTube, the Piston Fanatic Podcast, and I want all the listeners out there, or I want some writer to have the guts to to ask JB Bickerstaff for me, why don't you play D-ball Paul when every time he goes out there, he makes things happen, and he's just nothing. Block shots, rebounds, offensive rebounds, steals, assists, and shoots a high percentage. He can't get on the court. So I want somebody to have the guts to ask JB that question for me. So that's my last take. It's not a take, it's a question. So
well, we do.
If you find the answer, give me a call.
We do talk to a lot of the beat writers on the show, and that would be interesting to talk about with some of them. So I'll have to mention that. But I'm right there with you, because I mean, you can put whatever you want on him, third center, whatever you want to do. Maybe you don't like his shooting style. Maybe you don't really see the value because of just he's mainly a hard worker, but he does everything well. He affects the game when he gets out there, and I'm 100% with you, Coach, because he has been a key part of this team when they had to have him fill in and become the starting center for a decent amount of games. He's been the backup center for a decent amount of games, and he's one of the pieces that I was talking about when we were talking about the depth of this team, where there's certain levers that you can pull as JB Bickerstaff when you can say, okay, I mean, I don't want to pile on him because I think he probably got too much negative press in the first series, but Jalen Duren didn't have his best series that first series. He kind of came back towards the end, but it was a tough matchup, and I'm not ragging on him. But if you do have a hobbling Stewart or a Duren that maybe needs a little bit less time and is getting worn down, you have a great option to put out there that's going to put pressure on everybody and is going to be able to give you a different look at that center position.
Well, he's so good, he deserves to play every day, and JB doesn't deserve to have him on the team because he doesn't play him. He's done it for 2 years. He can go in for 5 minutes. He does great. 13 minutes, he does great. If Stu and Duren are both out, he does great. He gets 20 points and double-digit rebounds, and he's done it every day. His per 36 numbers are better than Duren's and Stewart's, and he doesn't get to even see the court most games, including last night. We don't win Game 6 without he got to play like 8 minutes in the second half, and he flipped that game. We went on like a 10-0 run in his 8 minutes. And we don't win that game without Paul Reed. That's when the game got turned over. So anyway, that's just, obviously it bothers me. But JB's a great coach. I want him to be my coach, but he doesn't deserve Paul Reed. I just want to know there's something about him that he does not like, because you can't have a guy. You're supposed to earn your minutes. Paul Reed's more than earned his minutes, and he doesn't play them. And we got a lot of guys that get to play that are erratic at best, and they still always get to play. So, anyway, fire it up there, Ryan. Have a good night.
I appreciate the takes here, Coach, and be sure to follow them and go Pistons, and hopefully we can get a good run. But appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan.
All right. Thanks, Dave. You too. Thanks to Dave Dalton. Appreciate him joining us. I warned Big G that he can get a little fired up, so he was doing that at the end. I love it. And speaking of Big G, we'll come back and close the show up after the break. Stick with us. You're listening to the Sports Project Primetime on Jethro FM here, but we wish him well. We kept the lights on while he was gone. Big G kept me on track, and I'm thankful for that, as he always does. What do you have to say, Big G?
Absolutely nothing. This is. I think this is the first time ever we're going to get through an entire show without you being fired.
I mean, we've got 4 minutes, so I might throw a couple things at you that get me in trouble. We'll see. We'll see here at the end.
I'm telling Mom.
Yeah, she's not here, so you can't tattle on me. She's probably listening, so you can tell her on air.
Oh yeah.
But want to thank our sponsors real quick here. Jeff Blahnik Group, 5 Star Realty, Western Michigan Broncos Athletics. We talked about them a little bit. Hope College Athletics. Go Coach Sturzma, my old football coach in high school at Hope. Dinks and Dingers Sport and Social Club in Kentwood. Athletico Physical Therapy and Carefree Lawns, Turf, Turf and Pest Management. Good timing for that particular sponsor here,
Yeah.
I feel like. Want to thank all of our guests. Zach Moran, Talking Some Lions, Greg McAleenan. Check out his charity, Go Replay Toys. Great stuff there. Jacob Bonema, check out Big Bear Honey and the Riverbank Run. That'll be fun this weekend. I assume that Steve may be covering it a bit because he'll be on the air when that's going on, if he's back, or maybe I'll be on the air. Somebody will be on the air at that time. And Mark Dewey in the Bullpen Podcast. Check him out. Interesting baseball stuff. Dave Dalton, if he gets a little worked up, I like that. Pistons Fanatic Podcast. We got him worked up towards the end, so that was fun. Want to preview the Jethro lineup a little bit here. We've got Shane Graham's Extra Points, co-hosted by me. We're going to have a little bit of a giveaway on the show tomorrow. We're going to have Rob Rubik of the Detroit Lions All-Stars. He's going to have a game this weekend against the Fraternal Order of the Police here at Wyoming High School, and so we're going to give away some tickets for that. Big G, I think, is mouthing into the microphone. That's not audible here, but maybe you can put in. You got to follow Shane Graham's Extra Points on Facebook and X for some more details here, and be sure to tune into the show tomorrow.
I may have to do that.
It's a cool I love these charity things that they do where you get to see a lot of these former players that you got to see on the football field, and then it's obviously a good cause and playing against some of the frontline folks, the police, the firemen and women, all of those folks. So be sure to tune into that. And then you've got the regular lineup. You've got Conrad and Rowdy all throughout the week during the day. We've got the Saturday show, Sports Project. Hopefully Sports Professor will be back for that. And then we've got the All Request show, Jeff Isaac's show at night. In between, we've got Polka Pops and Polka Overtime.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got Sports Intel next week, and obviously the Sports Project next week. But I want to check in with you, Big G, because I've been getting texts from another producer of the show, speaking of Jeff Isaac, who does the All Request show. He said he likes Yoo-Hoo, and his favorite drink is Sprecker's Root Beer. But he didn't pick Yoo-Hoo as his favorite drink. He's also a Seinfeld fan, and there's a Yoo-Hoo reference in that in a Seinfeld episode with the Bubble Boy.
I knew there was something wrong with that kid.
So there you go. So, but we couldn't get anybody to say Yoo-Hoo. I was legitimately surprised with that answer that Dave Dalton had. I don't think he could have.
Great answer.
I don't think he could have given me a more random answer than that.
Yeah, if he'd have said Yoo-Hoo, I'd have thrown something at you.
You would have known that I texted because I do have Dave's phone number. I could have texted him.
Yes.
But that answer that he gave was way better than Yoo-Hoo.
Oh,
that was way
absolutely.
better than the bit I could have played there. I couldn't have planned that.
Better than Yoo-Hoo.
But that combination, I'm gonna have to try it. We're gonna have to try it one day.
Yeah.
Big G.
Yeah, I'm
Dr.
down.
Pepper Zero and V8 Strawberry Banana. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'm down.
Unbelievable. Well, that's the note we'll leave you on here. Appreciate you listening. Thanks for listening to the Sports Project and Jethro, and we'll talk to you next week.
The Sports Project.